my friends, means that we are developing now a new breed of cats. You know, when you read the Bible and you hear about old Daniel going in the lion's den, the Bible is so old, and the mythology of the Bible is not exact. When they lowered Daniel down in that lion's den, they might have been Black Panthers down there.
Late night at the Lege. Appreciate you guys showing up as you always do. You know, every time we do this, we really want to make sure that we're cognizant about bringing the folks on who are directly impacted by processes that we experience at the Lege, but also want to talk about, some of the things that, folks who are involved in the process may be going through with their loved ones. And I had a chance to connect with Arquette Holmes from FPR Florida Rights Restoration. I know I'm saying that wrong, but they'll come on and correct me as we get into it. But I have some wonderful folks on tonight, and we're going to be talking about what's happening in Florida, what kind of amazing work they're doing at the Lege, and just get an overall feel of what they feel like folks can be doing or should be doing. And I'm going to ask them to come on and introduce themselves. There's no particular order.
I am Janet Gorey Watson, and I live in Florida, just a few minutes north of the capital. My son has been in prison now for 15 years, half of a 30-year mandatory minimum sentence. And he was sentenced under PRR, and that is why we're working so hard to get this law overturned, because he would actually be eligible to be released at this point for his good time that he has if this law would be overturned.
My name is Arquette Royster now. Actually, my husband and I got married in December. We've known each other for over almost 35 years or something like that. And he is doing year 21, I think, of a 30-year sentence as well.
And I am Marcia O'Farrell. I am friends with my loved one who has, he was convicted under PRR back in 92. And he is one of the first ones to be convicted under this new law, the new law at that time. And he is in his 25th year of a mandatory life sentence. And this law, if it were amended, he would have the possibility to be resentenced and have served his time and be able to be released.
Can someone give an overview of what the law is?
When you hear the time that we said, you would think that, they committed like murder or something. So when we actually tell you what those things were, it's how you're going to be able to see how this law is so unfair and so inhumane for them at the time. So the state attorney, not the judge, determines who will and who will not be sentenced under PRR. There are two determinations that the individual have to commit in order to qualify for these offenses. And the individual had to be released from prison within 3 years of their most recent offense. But even that, they don't have to actually be in prison. They could have been awaiting a prison sentence in jail. They could have been out on parole. So they've contract so many wordings to catch as many people as they can into this determination. As far as my loved one's background, he's had, in and out situations with the law. So when they were younger, it's like, okay, I go in, do 2 years, I'm out, do. And then this PRR comes along and it's like they slap all this time on you and think, as Marissa was saying about her loved one, that they even knew these laws existed, So yeah, I don't think a lot of them even knew that this law stood, because we've heard so much in the entire country about mandatory minimums, three strikes law, but I don't think in Florida they've ever known of that. Like my whole life of knowing him, I've never encountered this, and not even too recently when I started, actually he had gotten a letter from the PRR family group, and the letter was signed from BK. That's how we got involved earlier last summer. So, he's already done over 20 something years, and just now they're hearing about this. And that's why we're trying to reach out to so many of those behind the walls just to educate them. And like I was telling Janet earlier, when she was saying our little voice, our little voice has gone a long way, because even now, some of the we used to communicate as far as sending them correspondence through JPay. They're trying to block that through JPay from us trying to get them legal mail to give them knowledge about this. They've changed the laws in Florida of how much mail they could actually receive. I think due to COVID, and they were saying due to staffing issues, they were going to scan everything electronically. They weren't going to get paper mail. So it's just kind of making it even more difficult for us to even get them information about this.
And Florida is the only state in the country with a PRR law.
What about this law surprised you the most about what people didn't know?
Okay, I will say, first of all, he was convicted. Well, he was first served in prison as a juvenile, which he didn't even meet the criteria to be tried as a juvenile, but yet he was. And so then he got out at the age of 21, was straightening his life up, and made another bad decision, which he didn't realize was going to involve a burglary. So he was not one that was actually participating in the burglary or even held a gun. And so when he got out of prison the first time, the PRR law was not even in effect. It didn't come about until after he was released. And then that second incident sent him to prison for life, and no physical harm. And he wasn't even the one holding the gun. And the gentleman who was holding the gun has a lesser life or a lesser sentence. This law, he is in mandatory, the mandatory minimum, where no gain time, no possibility ever for parole. When they say life, he's in there for life. There's no other choice. And it's a two-strike law.
And so to give people some more context on that, because not everybody understands what good time can do or work time can do. So I was sentenced to 20 years, and I had to do 8 years on the calendar. With that 8 years earned me 8 years of good time, which equal to 16 years. And then I earned 4 years of work time, which allowed me to be what they call in Texas mandatory released, right? So in Florida, it feels like what you're saying is that there is no mandatory release period, and there's a mandatory minimum amount that has to be done. And also what I hear you saying is that it's not a 3 strikes law, it's a 2 strikes law. And if someone can kind of give folks context about, in Florida, what kind of impact is this having on people's lives?
One thing, Florida's prison system is about to completely implode because of all these mandatory minimum sentences in the PRR. There's 8,000 people just under PRR. This population of people, they're aging, they're not in good health because they've been eating the horrible food and walking and sitting and sleeping on concrete for all these years. My son is in not good health at all. I have to fight to get him the medication he needs all the time. It's constant. And Florida is at capacity now. So people who are being sentenced to prison are actually having to sit in county jail because the Department of Corrections can't take them in right now because they would be over capacity, which they already are to an extent. But I guess there's a little wiggle room in there that they're allowed to go so much over capacity that they can't go anymore over capacity. So now the county jails are full of people waiting to go to prison. Florida just keeps filling up their prisons, and they don't want to ever let anybody go.
And the other thing, like you were saying, what surprises us, it's a lot that surprises us about this, because the juries are never told about the PRR being loaded on someone that's being sentenced. So they never even know about this option when they're considering a case or bringing forth. So the Florida's 9th district is the one who determined that the PRR enhancement aggravates the mandatory sentencing and makes PRR a separate element of the offenses. So in Florida, they have so many repeat offender laws that this just magnifies the situation. Like in our case, my loved one, he was actually given a life sentence, but because he had funds to fight it, he was able to fight it, and he fought it, got it knocked down to a 30-year sentence. He still qualifies for game time, but in his case, for him to even get a life sentence for the situation that happened, he does have a background in legal issues and stuff like that. This particular situation was a drug deal gone wrong. But because, and he had money to hire good lawyers to help him with this, but because his, and he wanted to fight the drug issue, but his lawyers, you know how back during that time, it was really big about drugs. So if it was drugs mentioned at all, you were more likely going to go to jail. So his lawyer didn't want to take that route. So they didn't. So what the DA ended up doing is stacking his sentence as a robbery, because if you pull his sheet, that's all he got. So they ended up using this case as a robbery case instead of a drug deal gone wrong. They ended up saying that the person who used the property to pay him for the drugs, that he robbed that person of that property. So they figured, okay, we could use this as a robbery. Now we can get him because now he has a robbery background. So, it's not a lot to prove in that case. And even the situation that even irritates me further about this is that the witness has come forward several times, even in the beginning, saying he did not rob me. I gave him the bike. I gave him whatever it was in the situation. But they still didn't take that in consideration. I mean, they did when they knocked it down to 30 years, but 30 years over a misunderstanding is a lot. And like Janet said, with the prisons being as they are, we've all had recently with our loved ones dealing with COVID issues, trying to keep them safe from that, fighting them to get medication for those issues. Like she said, this population is older, they should have some kind of mandate to let some of these people go home. I mean, these men are in their 50s and 60s, some of them 70s. What are they going to do? I think the last time we had one of our meetings, I'm not in Florida, but the ladies that are in Florida had mentioned there was an entire prison for a geriatric population. Like, that should be in a nursing home. I don't understand that.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's touch on just for a moment. So one of the powers that the governor has is to release people.
Yeah, right? Do that.
And one of the ways to solve the issues that everyone just discussed, the prison overcrowding, folks who have been wrongly sentenced, over-sentenced, hyper-sentenced, is for the governor to use his powers to ease the pressure on the prisons and to make sure that people aren't suffering in cages.
We've had clemency petition for the last 7 years now. It has not really moved anywhere. We have petitioned for interstate compact. He is in line for that. What that is basically, we were saying, okay, if you got to do the rest of this, and because I live in Texas, move him here with me. So he is number 5 on the list for that. And so if you say number 5, you're like, oh, he's number 5. He's on number 5, but they have not done anything with anybody since 2019. So it's 3 years since they moved. Number 5, he could be done with this by that time. And even when we tried to push it through the prison where he is, his classification officer told him, well, you only got this many years left. So like, if you file this interstate contract, it's going to take longer than it is for you to be here.
So let's talk about the law a bit, or the bill and the process. Can we give folks kind of a landscape of where the bill is and what process the bill still has to go through and what y'all need the most help on?
The bill is has been stuck in the Judiciary Committee. It's just not getting moved out of there. And we've been to the Capitol. We've talked to the legislators in the committee. And, you know, we just really don't feel like it's going to move this year because of the climate and the folks there. There's going to be some changes next year. There's going to be a new president of the Senate, and we're a lot more hopeful for next year. We're not giving up. We're still there. We're still working. But we just really feel like we're being stonewalled this year. We just feel like we are not getting anywhere. And we are almost at our wits' end, not really knowing what to do other than showing up and talking to people, which is about all we can do. And we're doing that with every breath we have in our body right now.
Who are some of the opponents of the bill?
The Florida Sheriff's Association is the big one. They actually put out a video about the importance of PRR not being repealed. And there were misinformation in the video that they put out.
The Florida Sheriff's Association, I wish that we could possibly sit down and mediate with them. We have actually put out, in social media or responded to their video that we would like to meet with you. We'd like to show a face to PRR and PRR families, and no response whatsoever. And we directly, on their site responding to the video, many of us did, and have heard nothing. So I feel like I'm willing to meet halfway. I agree. I mean, my loved one agrees. He served his time, and I would like to add, we have two visionaries, Brandis, Senator Brandis, and Senator Pizzo. They are truly visionaries for amending this law and criminal justice transformation. And I'd just like to put that out there. If we had more legislators really take a look at the impact, of this bill. Also, for Florida taxpayers, I mean, this is costing taxpayers to warehouse. I mean, that is exactly what they're doing, just warehousing our loved ones.
And to piggyback on that, another really important piece to residents of Florida, citizens of Florida, what's going to happen if they just keep burying their heads in the sand and don't do anything?
Power, my friends, means that we are developing now a new breed of cats. When you read the Bible and you hear about old Daniel going in the lion's den, the Bible is so old, and the mythology of the Bible is not exact. When they lowered Daniel down in that lion's den, there might have been Black Panthers down there.